Hey guys, welcome to Ringsiders Wrestling. I am Jamie, joined by Callum, as always. Hello, Callum.
Hi, Jamie.
We have a very special guest today. He's Mr. Robert Ego Anthony. Hello, Robert. How are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to do one of these. I think this is my first video online conversation.
Oh, really?
Doing this, so
that's quite the honor for us then to do that.
hurts me to do this because I've tried to wrestle in your country many times. It just never came about. So when you guys asked me, I was like, well, I'll be there in spirit, I guess.
Yeah, that counts.
We'll take that. We'll take that.
Sure.
So, Robert, how have you been recently? Obviously, there's been a pandemic worldwide. Like, everything's been coming to a close. Wrestling was one of those things included. And a lot of people have spoken to, they've struggled with the downtime, not really having the outlet like professional wrestling to, focus on. How have you been coping? Obviously, you have a life outside of wrestling too. You're a dad. You've got another as well. How have you been coping?
No, man, this, it's terrible to say. Okay, so the pandemic is awful, right? And we as a people of the world wish this would go away so we could go back to some sort of normalcy. But if it wasn't for this pandemic, I don't think I would have had a lot of the opportunities that I have now in professional wrestling, as well as it's given me time to heal. Have you ever seen the movie Beyond the Mat when Terry Funk gets out of bed and he can barely move?
Yeah.
That's me at close to 40 years old. But now, you know what I mean? It gave me a time to heal, gave me time to rest, recover, and then on a positive note, I would never have gotten the opportunities with AEW if it wasn't for this pandemic. Do you know what I mean? So it's terrible to go away, but when it comes to what I've been doing lately, it's kind of taken this to get to where I'm at now, right? And
Yeah, I think that's been the case for a lot of people, especially coming through AEW Dark. It's maybe
absolutely
opportunities which wouldn't have presented themselves normally. Obviously, you had a match which kind of revisited a bit of your history with Jon Moxley on AEW Dark. And what was that like, revisiting that like so many years later? And how did that come about?
Yeah, so WrestleMania in New York. Was that the last one with live people? New York, New Jersey?
Yeah.
Okay, so WrestleMania in New York. I'm there for freelance wrestling and Joey Janela's spring break. And when I got, and the way that I kind of do everything when it comes to traveling is once I have my flight, I book nothing else. I don't buy a hotel. I don't do anything. I just kind of rely on people that I know to like let me sleep on their couches or. So I got to New York without a place to stay. I even joked online like I'm going to sleep on this park bench tonight because I don't know where I'm going. So that Mania, Drake Younger, who's NXT ref, let me stay with him at his hotel. And Mox was there, and I was like, yo, like, are you doing anything? He's like, I'm not even on Mania. And I was like, well, let's go to these shows. So we kind of, I don't want to say we fell out, but when you sign a WWE contract and you get as big as Mox got, your friendship never goes away. You just get really busy. Mm-hmm. So it was that Mania where we got to reconnect like we never left. And that Mania, he told me a lot of stuff about him leaving and all this kind of things. And it just happened to work out to where I kind of, at that point in my career, I was slow down, thinking of myself as extra talent only because I was doing a lot of WWE extra talent stuff, a lot. And it was really good money. And I was like, well, I'm going to work local Chicago and I'm going to do this WWE extra talent stuff and I'm going to make a lot of money doing it. And once he got into AEW, I said, hey, like, can I get in? Like, I didn't even say, can I get in as a contracted guy or wrestle matches? Like, hey, can I get in and do some extra work and like make some money? So he's like, yeah, I don't see why not. So before the pandemic, they booked me for 2 Chicago shows during the Jericho celebration. You know where they had the giant inflatables?
Yeah.
I was the inflatable cow. I was the inflatable cow. So like Mox hooked me up with that, getting those little extra paydays. And then that's all I kind of thought. It's like, when you're in the business that we're in, you never want to ask your friends for things. You never want to say, hey, can you do this for me? Because you put them in a weird spot. And he already got me in the door, and it was my mindset where I'm just going to be here making a couple bucks. I don't drink. I'm not a drinker. And I did these extra talent things, and I'm sitting on my couch on a Wednesday night with my wife, and she's making strawberry daiquiris. And she's like, do you want one? And I was like, I guess so. I guess I'll have one. And I had two sips of a strawberry daiquiri, and I was absolutely wasted as the search for Sean Spears thing came up on the screen. And I was like, I'm going to make a video for this search of Sean Spears thing after 2 drinks of a strawberry daiquiri. And I'm in my basement cutting these stupid promos that are really terrible. And then I finally was like, I'm just going to put this highlight video of me bleeding. I put it on the internet. I wake up the next morning. It's got like 40,000 views. And I was like, oh no, what did I do? And Mox is like, hey, this isn't a work. They're really looking for people to do this. And I was like, oh, wow. So that I put that on call. You're going to go to Milwaukee and you're going to do the search for Spears. 3 days later, the world shuts down. And when the world shuts down, I kind of reached out. And I was like, it's not happening anymore. Like, you want to come to Jacksonville and do it? I'm like, absolutely. So this is about the time that Mox was hurt. Something happened where he couldn't come. He wasn't there for the search for Spears. So I did the search for Spears, went home, and I was like, all right, well, like, I don't know what to do next, right? Because I had this experience and I really liked it and I was having a good time. I didn't know what to do next. And Mox texts me randomly at like 12:30 at night, 2 a.m. Like, he just random texts. So he sent me a random text with all these dates. And I'm like, all right, what's this about? He goes, those are the days that we're filming AEW. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, yeah, me and you. I go, me and you what? He's like, we're wrestling. I'm like, get out of here. We're not wrestling. He's like, oh, really? He goes, I don't know if it's on Dark or if it's on Dynamite. But he goes, if it's on Dynamite, it's going to be like 5 minutes. But if it's on Dark, we can do whatever we want. And I was like, oh, please, let's be on Dark. So I got booked. And at that time, they were taping Wednesday and Thursday. So I came in on a Tuesday. I showed up on Wednesday, looked at the board. We're not on. I'm not even doing anything that Wednesday. So I sent him a text, and I'm like, yo, here's my little one. She's going to go crazy. So I sent him a text because he wasn't at the building yet. I'm like, hey, we're not on today. He goes, yeah, I figured we'd be on tomorrow. So I was like, okay, cool. So then the next day, main event of Dark is Robert Anthony versus Jon Moxley. And as soon as I walked in, Janela was behind me. And they have a giant board of the matches. And Janela sees a match, and he goes real loud. He's like, oh, shit. He's like, we got a CZW rematch tonight. When we were doing that stuff, he was a trainee, and and he was around during that time, and he was trained at the CZW school while we were all on top over there, and so he was really hyped about it. And next to the time, it said 6 minutes, and I was like, man, 6 minutes? I thought we could do whatever we want. So me and him are talking, me and Mox are talking, and then this guy comes up to us and he goes, oh, so what, you and your boy, like what, 6, 7 minutes? And Mox is like, yeah, I don't know, like 10, 12, we might go longer. And they're like, all right, dude. Oh, we could do whatever we want. So that came about that way, man. And like I told him, I go, man, you didn't have to do that for me. It was like it was something that I appreciated because it didn't have to happen. I didn't ask for it. I didn't say, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? Like, it's just an old friendship that he kind of helped me out. And it's something that I'll never forget because it's your boy that you traveled 24 hours in one day with in a car. It's someone that we'd see each other every single month. Chicago to Philadelphia every month. And 12 hours one way. We'd wrestle, get back in the car, 12 hours back the other way. So it's like all the experiences that we had up until this like crazy little moment with like a lot of throwbacks of our matches like a long time ago. So that's kind of the way that they came about, and I can't say enough about it. He was hurt, extremely hurt during that match. He told me that when he entrance, his neck started locking up on him, and he was like, "Oh no, I shouldn't be wrestling." And hold on, I gotta get this little one puffs. She loves puffs. So he's like, I guess during his entrance, he like couldn't move, like he was all messed up, and then he gives me the Bret Hart figure four leg lock in the corner, whacks his tailbone, and like shooting pains up his back from that. Like in that match, he kicked me in the face, and I had this giant scrape across my face, and they were like slowly not showing this giant. I think like 2 days later, he sent me a text of his ass, and it's all black and blue. And I just sent him a picture of my face. I was like, "Look at my face," and he's like, "Oh, okay." But it's like, it was a good experience, man, and that kind of set me up to have these like pretty good matches leading up until today. You know what I mean? So that's like a long-winded explanation of how this all happened, but it's the story. You know what I mean?
Well, we were actually watching your match with Jon Moxley in CZW for the World Championship earlier. And then we watched the match on Dark just after, and it was so cool seeing, like, even though we were saying like what we love about Dark is they actually explain the history between yourself and Moxley, and like it wasn't just like brushed under. They did actually mention it. Like, these are two guys who know each other. They've got history, and it really played into the match. Even if it was like a 12-minute match, it still felt like there was a story there, and it would be cool to see that like maybe explored a bit more down the line. Obviously, it would be stupid if I said, "Do you want to do more work with AEW?" Of course you do. Like, but what do you want to? What's next for you then? Is that something we might end up seeing? I know you've had a few matches there, but are we going to see that fight anytime soon? Or
so the pandemic, right? It was a blessing and a curse, right? And if you look at Dynamite, there's only so much time that they have to fill, right? And there's so much story that they can tell. So when you say, "Oh, are we going to see any Dynamite anytime soon?" I don't think so. Dark is probably more likely. Full disclosure, my real life, I'm a teacher, right? So I'm teaching from my basement at the moment through a computer. So I theoretically could go and teach from the road at this point. But as of right now, I have nothing booked for AEW at the moment. But I also haven't reached out. We just started our school year. Next week is like a big week for us at the school. So I kind of want to get settled in the real life before I even like entertain the option of, "Hey, can I come in and do some shots for you guys?" And I'm probably going to teach from my hotel room. You know what I mean? So like, as of right now, I got to get real life a little bit situated because I kind of had the greatest summer vacation in the world. Like, I literally wrestled for AEW all summer and didn't have a care in the world. But now that real life is back in, you know what I mean? That's got to be one. I got this house, I got to pay for that stuff, and that's where the main money comes from. So I got to take care of that first. Do I want to do AEW again? Absolutely, but I'm not 22 years old anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, I signed a WWE contract when I was 23, 24 years old. No family, no kids, no responsibilities at all. Now I'm getting close to 40, and I have all this. If AEW decided, like, hey, Rob, like, let's run with this, you know what I mean? It has to make sense for them, right? Because I'm not doing things for myself anymore. And I hope that we do have that conversation someday. And because at the end of the day, like, this business could set them up for a real long time. You know what I mean? And I'm not stupid to that fact. Like, teaching will always be there. Like, I could get a teaching job, and if I told them, hey, I'm going to take some time off, like, I could get my job back. But wrestling isn't. You know what I mean? I don't know how many more bumps. I don't know how many more years I have left in me. But right now, I feel good. Right now, I feel like I could go. So I think baby steps. And once I get settled in real life, then I'll kind of reach out again and be like, hey, like, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
And then obviously, going back, you mentioned obviously signing for WWE them years ago. What was that experience like?
I had the worst developmental experience of anyone because I was training with Harley Race, and I did their pro wrestling Noah camp. And the camp was either, if you're really good, you're either going to get offered to go to Pro Wrestling Noah, or WWE is going to sign you. One of those two things. They had representatives from both. And when I left that camp, Harley told me that my photo, because they had this like photo resume thing, my photo was on the top of the stack for Pro Wrestling Noah. He's like, you're going to go. And I was like, and the second day of the camp, Nova from ECW, Mike Bucci, he gave me, after just 2 days, he gave me some extra work for WWE. So when I left on that Friday, I was like, I'm going to Noah. Like, I know I'm going. And I think that next week I went to Nebraska for Raw, and then I went somewhere else for SmackDown. And that's when it was Monday and Tuesdays. And when I got home on that Wednesday, I got woken up by Nova. And he goes, they want to bring you in. They want to give you a tryout. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I went to Georgia, McDonough, Georgia for a week, and I did that WWE tryout. And when I did that tryout, Georgia, after being there for about 2-3 months, they shut it down, and we moved to Florida to do FCW. And when they shut it down, I ended up training in a batting cage place where like kids are playing Little League next to where we're training. Then we moved to a food warehouse, and that food warehouse, what was the FCW arena. But that whole time, I was wrestling in bars and flea markets in front of less crowd than I was back home. So, like, I never got a chance to develop to find out who I was, because, like, I was wearing a mask at that time, being Egotistico Fantastico. And then when I got signed, I took the mask off. And I didn't know who that person was because they wanted me to, and I needed to figure that out. And I never had that time to, because we're basically glorified movers with WWE contracts. Yeah. So when I got let go, I was like, man, really? Okay. And then through that is who I figured out who I was without a mask. And that's how that CZW run started. Because I was doing some things for Ian Rotten and stuff like that. But like, I made a lot of friends that I have to this day through the WWE developmental system. I learned a lot, and just about how to work. I didn't learn about who I was through a character or anything like that. But I didn't have the experience that the kids have nowadays. You know what I mean? They have an established building, a performance center with air conditioning and promo classes and stuff in U-Hauls, and was training, doing hour matches next to canned goods. You know what I mean? And by the time that FCW building was pretty much built, I got let go. And like, it is what it is at that time. You know what I mean? So the experience was good because I got to see how that system worked. I got a lot better training than what I first started getting when I first broke into. But as giving a fair shot, I tried to make the most of what I had, and I didn't have much. You know what I mean? Like the first FCW match ever, it's not on the network. It was myself and Fandango at a bar called the yeah, I got it on tape still. It's at a bar called the Dallas Bull. It's a square dancing bar. That's where the first ever FCW match ever happened. That whole show was at a ar. And then and I got all these tapes still. It's like us wrestling at a flea market and things like that. So it wasn't what they have now. And for a very, very long time, I was bitter about it. Like when I met my wife now, she was a wrestling fan, and she's like, "Hey, let's go to Raw." I'm like, "Absolutely not." And she's like, well, "Why don't you want to go?" I'm like, "It's like a girlfriend that broke up with you, and she's with someone else. Like, you don't want to go back.
Yeah.
You don't want to see her again." And like, I was super like anti it, super anti. And then one day I gave in. I was like, "All right, we'll go." And then that's kind of what it was. But yeah, man, for a super long time I was bitter. Now I kind of let it go, and it is what it is.
Yeah, they have an incredible training system now. Like you mentioned, NXT is like the performance center is like anything, never seen anything like it before. But it sounds like you still had a great time in, wrestling. Like you said, you were on the first episode of FCW against Fandango.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool anyway. Like, what was the biggest takeaway away from that then? Like you said that you really learned a lot when you were in developmental, and what was the biggest like eye-opening thing that you found there? Like, a lot of people say it's how to work a camera and stuff like that. When you're working in WWE, that's what you really learn how to do. What was it for you?
Yeah. So I've always considered myself a TV wrestler more than an independent wrestler, because I wrestle like I'm on TV all the time. I like telling stories. I like doing that. That's how I've always molded myself as a professional wrestler. But the one thing that I've learned most from WWE developmental is how to treat this as a business. Because when I got signed, I treated it like it was the greatest vacation of my life. I'm on my own for the first time and things like that. And I didn't treat it like a job. And when I got let go, I was like, oh, this is what I should have done. I should have treated it like a business.
Yeah.
And I'm on the phone, but and I didn't do that. And that's the one thing I learned at the very end was how to treat professional wrestling not as, and it's bad to say, but not as fun anymore, but as a job, right? It still can be fun, but I never looked at it as a job. I never looked at it as a way to be like, make a lot of money. I was like, dude, I'm going to wrestle with my friends. I'm going to wrestle in front of a lot of people on TV and live, and this is going to be great. I'm going to see The Undertaker. This is going to be awesome. And in reality, I should have been like, market yourself. Make them want you. Make them want you. You're a businessman now because your label is an independent contractor. And I didn't think that way, and I should have. And the guys that did think that way are making millions of dollars now. Like my guys I've been training with, and I'm still friends to this day, are millionaires because they thought of it in a different mindset than I did. And I was out there to have fun. Like I'll give you an example. When I got there, I was getting like the biggest checks I've ever had in my life. And the first thing I did is I went to the sporting store and I bought BB guns. And and I had roommates, and I would shoot them with the BB guns. And the next thing you know, everyone in developmental had BB guns. And we like wait outside the gym for each other and shoot each other with these BB guns, or we wait outside the apartment complex and shoot each other with BB guns. And then one day, like I'm really into UFC. So then I was like, hey, after practices, we should do shoot fights and see if we could tap each other out. And so then I started like the shoot fight, like, Brodus Clay, me and Brodus Clay had an MMA match. He destroyed me, but like, no punching or anything like that. But that was like my mindset of like, let's have a good time. Let's have fun. And I'm over here, and the office had to say, hey guys, stop shooting each other with BB guns because you guys got welts and stuff. And they were like, all right, no more shoot fights. Tyson Kidd told me when I got fired, he goes, as soon as you left, the MMA shoot fight stopped. And I was like, oh man. So like, but it was like kind of one of those things. Like I didn't take it as a business. I took it as fun, having a good time. Like a guy from your end of the world, Steve Lewington. You ever heard of Steve Lewington?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Steve Lewington used to ride his bike to training every single day. And me being me is I took his bike and I attached it to the rope and hung it 30 feet in the air in the FCW arena, and I left it there. And they're like, he was like, oh, who put my bike up in the ceiling? So like I would do like stupid stuff like that, you know what I mean? So like it was a good time, man. I had a good time, but I should have treated it as a business. And that's what I learned afterwards. It's like, all right, you're a businessman.
That's a good lesson to have learned though. And at least you had fun at the time. I mean,
I had a good time.
Buying BB guns, doing shoot fights. The shoot fights sounds like you kind of inspired what Raw Underground is now, I guess. Like, I think that's
man. Bloodsport inspired what Raw Underground. Like, Mox and I were texting, and I was like, man, are you looking at this stuff? And like, I was like, man, they got this 8-foot giant fighting someone. I was texting him, and then the next text was, he just grabbed the guy by his dick. We were just making fun. We were making fun of it. I was like, because Mox is supposed to wrestle Josh Barnett. We're joking that's the most cursed match ever because they tried to do it twice now and it hasn't happened. And so like yeah. Underground got inspired by Bloodsport.
Yeah, that's a match I won't mind seeing. Speaking of fun though, we've got to talk about CZW. I mean, how did that whole experience come about? Because we were watching some tonight of your matches and wow, I mean, how did that come about?
So I was wrestling for Ian Rotten and for IW Mid-South. And DJ Hyde, Zandig still company, DJ Hyde, and saw me work. And he gave me a call. He actually contacted me through MySpace. And then he goes, hey, do you want to come in? We got this young guy. So I came into the Cage of Death. We killed it. And then Zandig was like, all right, come back. This was December. He's like, come back next month in January. And then me and the guy, Quick Carter Gray, who was the only person at the time I could see do a standing shooting star leg drop. We did the show in January. And then once that happened, we were pretty much full-time regulars. Hold on. My wife came home, so I'm going to give her a baby. That way we have no babies during this. I don't know. Here. I'll be right back. I'm going to do this thing real quick. I'm going to walk with you. Yeah, I know. So we did Cage of Death, and then we did I'm going to take you guys in the basement with all the toys. So once we did Cage of Death, we did that January show with Carter. You guys are like full-time regulars, and we're like, oh, this is great. This is going to be awesome. So then we were just running. We're off and running. And then when let me move you this way. Give me 1 second. Okay. And then when Zandig sold the company to DJ Hyde, that's when we had a lot of freedom, right? That's when the direction of the booking went to a lot of the young and newer guys and stuff like that. But one thing I always say about CZW at that time, that 2009 to like 2011, 12 crew, was that entire locker room was a family. And it's something that doesn't happen to this day. Like when you go into certain locker rooms, it's kind of like a hello, goodbye thing. But back then in that locker room, no matter where you came from, if you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or in the Midwest, everyone was friends and the family, and they all hung out. We all had a good time. And that's something that's missed, I think, in professional wrestling. It wasn't about who's on top or who's champion or anything like that. Like everyone at that time, we wanted to be the top promotion in America, right? Because I think at that time, ROH was still kind of on top. And like Seth Rollins, Tyler Black was their champ, and they were rocking and rolling. And I remember us saying, like, our roster, a lot of those guys aren't as jack or as pretty as those ROH guys, but man, we can go. We're putting on some killer matches and some killer shows. And that's what everyone kind of thought about, you know what I mean? Like, if you think about that roster back then, it was myself, it was Mox, Drew Gulak was there, Adam Cole was there, Drake Younger, we had Nick Gage, we had Thumbtack Jack from Germany, Like, we had some of the best guys in the world. J.C. Bailey, Brain Damage, Scotty Vortex. Like, no one could touch what we were doing at that time. And we thoroughly believe that. And that whole entire CZW crew, I miss it. I miss that time. I miss it because you don't get that anymore. Like, when you go to shows now, it's like, all right, well, these guys are over there and these guys are over there. And, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's just like kind of a backstage kind of deal. But, like, I remember when I won the CZW title from Mox, Drake Younger brought me a thing of champagne. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. Like, I went out in the back of the arena and there was champagne. And, like, before the Cages of Death, like, Rick Clark, he's a super fan out in that area. He would have barbecues. And, like, we'd get to the Philadelphia at like 6, 7 in the morning. By 10 o'clock in the morning, there was full crowd in the parking lot, just having barbecues, hanging out, and things like that. Man, it was a great time. Like, if you weren't there during that time, you missed out.
CZW has always had somewhat of a charm, though. I found, like, I used to watch quite a bit of it. Like, I used to watch Chikara and CZW around the same time, given that they were both in the same arenas and shared some of the same talent. I was a huge fan of Chikara and caught CZW whenever I could. But the roster has always been incredible with CZW. Like, even in the early days, they had, like, Jack Evans and people like that, you know, there were Alex Shelley. I think they had AJ Styles at one point for a couple of shows, but I know that
CM Punk was there in the early aspects of it too. Yep.
So it's always had a great roster. And like you said, when you was yourself, Mox and Younger and everybody, I think a lot of people don't realize, like, CZW is kind of like a who's who of independent wrestling go through its doors. And like you said, that Ring of Honor might have had Tyler Black and everybody, but CZW held their own and had just as many good names come through the doors.
See, I competed in ROH during 2 different eras. I competed in ROH when Gabe Sapolsky was in charge, and then Adam Pearce was in charge.
Yeah.
And that locker room, to me, was always segregated. It was always this click over here, this click over here, this click over there. And that translates to the ring. That's what I believe. And we never had that. Like, I remember coming back from my first ever match at CZW at that Cage of Death, and Nick Gage was standing at the curtain swinging a shirt around his head because he was so excited about what we did. And, like, people were always hyped and they wanted everyone to get better and do better, and people wanted to work with each other. And there was no, like, groups. You know what I mean? Like, we made fun of each other and we did jokes and we did all that kind of stuff. But, like, at the end of the day, man, everyone was family. And, like some of the stories from there are hilarious. You know what I mean? And, like, Sammy Callahan was there during all this too. Like we had everyone that's on top now. You know what I mean? A lot of those ROH guys from that era are not around anymore. But a lot of those CZW guys are still there, man. And in whatever capacity, they still have a passion for it. They still have a love for it. And we all look out for each other. It was probably some of the greatest times of my life in professional wrestling. Like, I'm looking over right now and I have, like, a stack of DVDs of the CZW shows I've been on. And, like, I always joke around, that's my resume. Like, here's my resume of the greatest times of my life. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we had some good ones, we had some bad ones, but, like, it was awesome, man. Like, there was a CZW show, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I believe it was in, like, either Ohio or Indiana. It was in front of 15 people. And that 15 people sounded like 15,000 people. I think it was like Mox and Drake in a hardcore match. Crazy. That show happened in front of 15 people, and those 15 people got the show of their lives because that's how they were working.
That's so good.
It was so fun, man. It was such a good time. Like, we traveled to that CZW group. I remember we did a Peterson Cup for FIP, and it was a CZW roster that they brought in. It was Drake, Mox, myself, and Scotty Vortex. And we drove in, and we had no money. We drove there with no money. And I remember, like, Mox is driving. We go to this toll booth. We just gave him a handful of pennies. And he gave it to the toll booth lady, and he dropped them on the ground. And he goes, "Oh, no, I dropped them," as he drives off. It's some of the greatest times ever. Like, oh, and that was the same trip that the hotel was under Drake Younger's credit card. And Mox from that hotel, and they charged Drake's credit card for the pill to the CZW arena. And Mox is like, "Hey," or Drake was like, "Hey man, like they charged me like $35 for that pillow." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll pay you for it." So like we just had some of the greatest, like, weirdest times ever, man. CZW was fun. CZW was a really good time.
It looked at us as well. We were watching your match earlier with Mox from CZW, and you could just tell you were having fun. Like the chemistry was there. There wasn't. It was just perfect to watch. You could tell that you guys were just having fun. You know, there was no awkwardness. It was just, these guys are having fun.
There's my wife. Say hello to everyone in over in England. Say hello.
Hey.
Say hello. I'm wearing air. I know I have headphones in. Yeah, I was. All right, let me finish this. Well, everyone can hear you. Yeah, she ate. Yeah, she's ready for bed. All right, bye. See, she just runs in. That's how it is having a family and all that kind of stuff. No, like you said, man. Like, yeah, we were having a good time, man. It was awesome, and like those same jokes I did in WWE, I did over there in CZW. Like, Drew Gulak was the Wired champion, and I found a scissor lift, and I raised myself up in the scissor lift, and I put the CZW Wired television title on top of the ECW arena rafters, and I hid the lift. I left it there, and it's like my MO. Is find something high, attach it to it, and then like leave it there. What's another funny one? Like, the most infamous is that we would get in so early, we wouldn't know what to do, and I would explore South Philadelphia. And a wrestler, his name was Kyle Threat. He also went by OMG. We were like, let's go to the movies. I was like, okay. I think it was like 10 in the morning, 11 in the morning. And we get to the movies. I was like, well, I'm not paying for this. And so we went up to the lady, and I was like, hey, do we get in for free? And she's like, oh, why is that? I was like, oh, we work at the other theater downtown. And she's like, oh, the Ritz? I was like, yeah, I work at the Ritz. She's like, oh, yeah, just sign this. And I every month I'd sign my name as Jon Moxley. And so we get in early, and that became a thing after that. It was just me and OMG. We go to movies. I'm like, hey, my name's Jon Moxley. I work at the Ritz. Like, oh, cool, sign this. We go see movies. 4 months into this, I'm in 10 people at 10 in the morning to go see movies under the name Jon Moxley. So it's just like so much fun, man. It's so much fun. Oh, man, I just can't. Reminiscing about those times, man. I could go forever, but I won't.
We need to do an episode where we just talk about CZW stories.
Dude, I don't think you guys know this, but I used to have a web show. I was one of the very first professional wrestlers to have a YouTube channel. And the way I built it was it's a professional wrestling show, not about wrestling. And it was just us in the parking lot at CZW doing skits. I believe on my Twitter, I just posted a skit of me and Mox before he left for the WWE. And it was, it just starts off with him talking about the plot of Top Gun and how the blood of Goose is on Iceman's hands. And then he's like, I got to leave. And he leaves. And then that same guy, Rick Clark, that did the barbecues, he's like, hey, where's Mox? I get this beer for him. I was like, I'll give it to him when he comes back. He's like, he's not coming back. And then he walks off like the Incredible Hulk. But like we would do all these stupid little skits with like different wrestlers. Like I had Necro in there. Like I'd find Necro pissing in the corner in the parking lot, and I'd film him. So like I can do an entire show on just things that happen in CZW, and I could go for hours. It was such a good time.
It sounds like an early version of being the Elite. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
but less PC. Like if I released those tapes now, we would all get canceled. What we did back then, you cannot do now.
Cancelled on the spot.
On the spot. Like,
Yeah.
remember there was a clip that went viral of the Syrian Portal doing the hypnotize thing? They all dance in the ring. The week after they did that, I was like, I got an idea. I was like, let's hypnotize Mia Yim. And we hypnotized Mia Yim, and Adam Cole runs in, and there's all. I can't even say what happened the rest of it because, like, we would be canceled. It was the worst. Like, so that was like 2010, and like, it was a different world back then. But it was fun, man. It was fun.
I totally think we need to do another episode with you just talking about them stories.
I'd be well up for that.
Yeah.
We'll just get you back on to talk about CZW stories.
Dude, you'd be speechless. And oh man, you'd be speechless. It's so great.
But yeah, obviously we won't keep you much longer. You've got the wife is now home and whatnot. But I've got to ask you. I know we touched a bit on your training before we do let you go. What actually was it like learning from Harley Race?
Man, it was amazing. So the way that worked out was a buddy of mine, Keith, did the Noah camp the year before me and went to Noah. And he was like, you got to do this. You got to do this. So he ended up living down there. So we came in before the camp a few months and started doing shows for him. And the way Harley booked his shows were very, very old school. Mm. It would go, the formula of his live shows were there was a singles match. And in that singles match, someone would interfere and beat up whoever. Then another guy would come save them. And then for the main event, all four of those guys would wrestle in a tag match.
Right.
Every single show. And one show, Harley, and this is where I learned so much from this one conversation. He's like, all right, kid. He would tell you what your finish was. He goes, here's your finish for tonight. I go, okay. He's like, you're going to hook him in a suplex. You're going to hold him up. Hold him for as long as you can. And then you're going to drop him and then pin him. And it got real quiet. And I was like, a suplex? A stalling suplex for a finish. And then I go, are you sure that's big enough? And he just stopped what he was doing, looked at me, he goes, kid, I won the NWA World Heavyweight title that way. And I go, say no more. And from then on, I was like, I will never talk back ever again to Harley Race.
I mean,
he has a reason for everything. Huh?
He had a point.
He did have a point. And like, he was great, man. He taught you a lot of stuff. Like, I believe we were talking about, and he goes, at that point, I've never bled in the mat. And he's like, oh, you never bled? He's like, no. He's like, you know how we used to do it back in the old days? I'm like, yeah, how? He goes, you take your eyebrow and I stretch it real hard, and I take my middle knuckle and I hit you one good time, and that thing will split open and bleed everywhere. I'm like, oh wow, that's crazy. He's like, want me to show you right now? I'm like, no, show me right now. Like, he wanted to punch me and make me bleed in the middle of his bar. And then he'd start laughing or whatever. And then, like, the one story that I love, and to this day, I challenge anyone to do this because you can't do this. Harley had the biggest hands I've ever seen. I got big hands, man, but he had big hands. And what he did was he took the beer cap off of a beer bottle and he put it, but he didn't. He kept his fingers straight like this and had the beer cap flat, and he bent it like a football like this. I challenge you, whenever you're drinking or you're ever doing anything, take a beer cap, put it between your fingers. Don't bend your fingers. You can't even bend them a little bit. Kept them perfectly straight. Did this, bent it like a football. You will cut your fingers up. You cannot do this. Only Harley Race is the only man I've ever seen be able to do this, man.
That's amazing. Christ, God.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
That's answered my Harley question. Yeah. Obviously, you know, we will definitely have to have you on again, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been incredible. But do you want to? Is there anything you want to promote or plug? Your social medias?
Or any merchandise?
Any merchandise?
Yeah. When is this going to come out? When do you think?
This will be up. It's Saturday today for us, so this will be up on Monday.
Okay. So then, I don't know if I want to give you exclusive. I don't know if I. Oh man, exclusive. Let me think about this. All right. First thing I want to promote is on my Twitter at EGOS13. They always ask why is it Egos13? It's because it's my gamer tag, and I decided that I wanted to make my Twitter my gamer tag. But on there is a link to my pro wrestling tee store. I donate all of my profits. Anything I've gotten paid from pro wrestling tees, I've donated it to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. The reason why I do that is because my son had some health problems, and through that, I discovered St. Jude's. When he was real young, I discovered them. And one thing I learned is that when you donate to charities, sometimes you don't know where that money goes, right? At least with St. Jude's, you know where it's going, because any family that needs their help, they not build. They don't pay a dime. And the reason why they don't pay a dime is because of all of the money that people donate to them, right? So I'm not saying store and buy a shirt, but if you decide to do so, that money is donated to St. Jude's. All right, ready for the exclusive?
Yes.
Here's the exclusive. I am an avid. I'm an avid. Where am I? Action figure collector, right? So I got all of the Hasbros here. I have some LJNs down here. I got it. Look at these. Look at these shoes. I got a bunch of toys, right? I got a giant life size. Look at my ceiling up here. Hold on, wait. We got like action figures all in here. I'm here in my basement. So I'm an avid toy collector my entire life, and one of the main goals of myself is I've always wanted an action figure. I've always wanted one. And I've recently partnered with Pro Wrestling Loot, and Robert Anthony, dressed as Egotistico Fantastico, will be having his own action figure. Oh, I died out. Will be having his own action figure via Pro Wrestling Loot. Probably I will have them in my hand by the end of next month. I have the packaging already figured out. I have the figure is getting molded on Monday. There is some controversy with the Pro Wrestling Loot figures. Some believe that they are they're little rip-offs of these guys right here, the little micro ballers. Here's I brought this because you guys are from that end of the world, Davey Boy Smith. I will have my my Pro Wrestling Loot figure will be micro brawler-esque, but it will not be coming in a package like the micro brawler. It will be not. It will be a carded figure on a bubble.
Amazing.
With it'll have details on the back. It will have 2 chase variants. There will be an all gold figure, and there will be an all blue figure, and then as well as the regular one. And with that, all profits of my end of the figures will be getting donated as well. I'm probably going to end up selling them via Twitter. I don't want to sell them on eBay. I might send some on eBay, depending on the shipping and things like that. But these will be in my hand by the end of next month. And I'm
That's
super
awesome.
excited for someone that has, for someone that has a basement full of toys. It's a bucket list thing. So that's my scoop. Until I see you next time, we will tell CZW stories, talk about my love of aliens and action figures and conspiracy theories.
Absolutely.
We will definitely be in touch to do another episode, 100%. But for now, we really appreciate your time, man. It's been amazing.
Yeah, no worries.
And
cool,
we'll
man.
see you again soon.
Thanks so much, dude. Take care.
See ya.